Alright, so season 4 of Lost. A little bit of information. This was actually the first season of Lost that I actually watched. That I actually bought, I should say. I started watching with season 5. So, my friend kept telling me, you gotta watch Lost. It's a good show. You don't watch Lost? You don't watch Lost? It's a good show. And then people were always saying, oh, you gotta watch it from the beginning or you're never gonna understand it. Which is somewhat true. But before season 5, they aired this hour-long special that basically showed you all the important parts for the first 4 seasons. So that was there. And then I bought this shortly after the season 5 premiered. And I watched through this, and I was able to understand what was going on, sort of, in season 5. So, yes. But I do recommend, if you're going to watch this, watch from the beginning, because it is kind of hard to understand some things. So, where do we leave off? Well, Charlie, poor Charlie, sacrificed himself so that they can get the radio tower working. And then they find out that the boat that supposedly came to rescue them is not Penny's boat, so there's something going on. So now our survivors are trying to get off the island. But this has caused some problems because some people believe that these people aren't who they say they are. So, split into 2 factions again. And some people go with Locke. Some people go with, Jack. So, yeah. But I will say, this was, going through these seasons, this was probably the first easiest one to get through. Because there's only 13 episodes. And so there's a lot less. After the whole filler season of season 3, this was a lot better, I thought. We are now doing flash forwards, although there are some flashbacks. And there's a couple episodes I want to call out here. There's The Constant, which is a Desmond-centric episode. This is probably one of the best episodes of the season. And it has Desmond going, so Desmond and Saeed go with with Frank, who is the helicopter pilot, back to the freighter. And when this happens, there's a lightning storm, and something happens to Desmond where he is going back and forth between now and 1996. And he's got memories of 1996 Desmond. And he has to navigate his way. And he eventually comes in contact with 1996 Penny. And who doesn't look any younger than the current Penny. But he tells her, I'm going to call you. I won't call you for 8 years. Because it's still 2004 technically. In our timeline. Because it's only been months since the boat crashed, or since the plane crashed, not years as it was to us. So it's very confusing. So yes, and so yeah, and he eventually finds his constant, which is Penny. And a constant is someone you knew then and you knew now. And Faraday, who's one of the new characters, I'll tell you about him in a minute, says in his book that Desmond Hume is his constant. So, yes, there are some new regulars in this season. We have Charlotte, played by there's Charlotte, there's Daniel Faraday, there's Miles Strom, there's the janitor, Kevin Johnson, I think is his name. He's a janitor. What's his importance? Well, we'll get to that. If you don't already know. Kevin Johnson. Yes. Kevin Johnson. Those are the new regulars. Sort of new. And Charlotte, Miles and Daniel are a team sent from the freighter to the island. They're basically the good guys out of this bad guy thing. This freighter was sent by Charles Widmore, Penny's father, so that he can kill Benjamin Lioness. We do find out in season 5 that Widmore used to be one of the others. So, yeah, we'll get that. And like I said, Jack and Locke both take perspective people to different places with Sawyer, Hurley, Claire, and the baby. Among some of the background people go with them while the rest stay on the beach. And yeah. So the other episode of mention is Ji Young, where we see in a flash forward, because we find out that Sutton is pregnant. We already found out last season she was pregnant. And so she's got to get off the island because if she doesn't, she'll probably die. So in a flash forward, she's about ready to give birth. And we're also shown that Jin has this panda and he's trying to get to the hospital for some kind of baby delivery. And I love how this is played. It's played, and Sun keeps screaming for Jin to come, and yet you have Jin on his way. And then I love how it's played parallel, where we find out that Jin is actually in a flashback to where he's only been married a couple months. And Sun is in the flash forward. We find out son Jin's fate later in the season. Now, the character of Kevin Johnson. Kevin Johnson is the janitor aboard the freighter. But he is actually a plant for Ben. And he has a connection to the rest of the survivors because he is actually Michael. Yes. And we have this flashback, or flash forward, flashback. It's a flashback at this point. Apparently, he told Walt what he did, so Walt went to live with his grandmother, that being Michael's mother. And so Walt wants nothing to do with him. So there's that. And I think it was more so to keep Malcolm David Kelly off the screen again, because we do see him talk to Hurley. And I'm going to talk about the fates of the Oceanic Six, as they call them, because some of it, I don't like. It seems like they purposely make their lives terrible so they have no choice but to go back to the island. As we know from the end of season 3 that Jack becomes a drunk and a drug addict. And he's screaming at Kate, "We gotta go back! We have to go back, Kate! We have to go back!" They put Hurley back in the mental institution again because he's seeing dead people. Even though, because there's this thing with Hurley now. Supposedly, now he can see dead people. In the first episode, he sees Charlie. Apparently, he playing chess with Mr. Echo when Saeed comes to get him in a flash forward. He sees dead people, and we don't know why. And then he talks to Walt. And then there's this mysterious black guy who we find out later works for Charles Widmore, but he has a connection to both Locke and Hurley. And then there's Richard Alpert, who we've seen throughout the past couple seasons, who's one of the others. And he has a connection to Locke, where he's trying to get Locke, he has this test for Locke when Locke is a kid, and says, which one of these is yours? And I thought, considering what happens in season 5, young Locke picks the knife. And I'm like, that would make sense. But then he's like, no, it's not yours. And he leaves. And I'm like, but that would make sense. Especially what we know what goes on in season 5. That was his, just not yet. But I'm looking at all this stuff and I'm thinking, which thing is his? The compass? I don't understand what it's supposed to be. I guess I just don't get this test. Who knows? And I have the flash forwards. They're a bit of a change. But here's why the flashbacks are a little bit better. Flash forwards ruins stuff, really. Because you're already going to know what's going to happen to these characters. Like, from the beginning, you know that Jack, Kate, Sayid, Hurley, and Sun are getting off the island because we see their flash forwards only. I mean, there's teasing when Kate says to Jack, he's waiting for me. And you think, oh, it's Sawyer, but really it's Aaron because she kept the baby. Now, if you are one of those who are wagging your finger at, oh, what about Claire? Desmond said he had a vision of Claire getting into the helicopter. Well, let me tell you something. At one point, they probably had that in mind, but the actress probably decided to leave the show, so they had to change it. But you can still explain it. So let me explain what happens to Claire. She disappears. She's in the woods with Sawyer, and she disappears, leaving the baby behind. We find out she's with her dad, which is supposedly Jacob, but I'll get to that in a later review of how it's not Jacob. It's never been Jacob, and I'll get to explaining that. But we find that she's there. And then Kate has a dream. Don't bring him back. Don't bring the baby back. Who's now older, but don't bring him back, And she's gone. Now, why is this not a continuity error? Well, because she can explain it away. So, Desmond told Charlie that if Charlie did what he did and sacrificed himself, he had a vision that Claire was going to be on the helicopter off the island. He lied to get Charlie to do this because he knew unless there was something, Charlie would never do this, and Charlie has to do this. And it worked. It got some people rescued at least. Another thing I think they probably messed up was Sawyer because they were showing in flash forwards and Sawyer didn't make it. Yet Sawyer gets on the helicopter like, oh, wait a minute. We got to have a reason for him to get the helicopter. So all of a sudden, they shot bullet holes when they were fighting the mercenaries. They shot bullets into the helicopter's gas tank, even though we saw no bullets go through the gas tank. Usually something like that, they would foreshadow it, but they didn't, so it was a last-minute change, probably. And so, they're like, oh, we use a couple 100 more pounds lighter, and then, of course, Hugo's like, because he's the fat one. But then Sawyer whispers something to Kate, which we find out later, and jumps off into the water, which he survives, of course. But also, there's a bomb on the freighter. They find that there's a bomb on the freighter. We find out in Michael's flashbacks that he's continuously trying to kill himself, and he can't do it. Although I do find problems with the fact that he tried to kill himself in a car accident and got injured, but there's nothing happens when he tries to shoot himself with the gun. Nothing. It just clicks. And we see Tom Friendly, MC Gainey comes back for an appearance. We find out he is gay. Interesting. We also find out that the island won't let Michael die until he does what the island wants him to do. And I will explain this more in the next couple seasons. But, so Locke goes to see Jacob, who's supposed to be this mysterious island protector, which he is. But as I explained, it's not Jacob that he talks to, and I'll explain that later, of who it really is. but he tells him he has to move the island. And Ben does that after he kills Kimi, who kills Alex, Ben's daughter. The guy also kills Carl and Russo, so they're off the show for now. Russo comes back, a younger version of her anyway, later. But, yeah. And so he has a dead man switch on him, linked to the bomb on the freighter. And Michael has been spraying it with CO2 to keep it cold, but it's not going to last. So he tells Desmond to go get on a helicopter. They have to land because they need to patch up the thing and put the gas in. I love when Desmond sees the helicopter. He's like, oh, bloody hell. They get in, they patch it, but they're not able to get Jin. And Kate says she's going to go get Jin, but Jack tells her, no, come on, we got to go. I'm not leaving without you. So they get on. Jin comes out, and he gets a blowed up. But I'm going to spoil this and tell you he doesn't die. But I'm also going to tell you that for some reason, since season 3, well, the first season does it too, every season finale except for season 2 and season 6, they separate Jin and Sun. At the end of season 1, they are separated when Jin goes with Michael, Sawyer, and Walt on the raft. They're not separated in season 2 because they're with Saeed on the boat. But then in season 3, they're separated when Jin, Bernard, and Sawyer set the trap for the others on the beach. And in this one, Jin gets blown up, but the explosion supposedly flings him from the boat, even though he was in the middle of the damn boat. But yes, and then they get separated at the end of season 5 again. I cannot tell you how because I do not remember. I have to watch it, I guess. But yes, they get separated again. But yes, and then it ends with them crashing into the ocean, but then they use a life raft, right, from the helicopter, and they're found by a boat. This time, it is Penny's boat. And Desmond is reunited with Penny, and he's so happy. And then Jack says they have to lie. And we find out in flash forwards they did lie to protect the people from the island. But the problem is, they moved the island. Now, we knew that they lied to protect the island. We didn't know that they actually succeeded in moving the island. So now that we know that they actually moved the island, what's the point of them telling the truth? Or them lying? Because they won't be able to find the island anyway, right? Yeah, they still, I don't know. They do, there's, stuff happens in season 5, but I'm just saying. And it ends with a flash forward of Jack. So throughout this season, in the flash forwards, they mention a guy named Bentham. Jeremy Bentham. This Bentham talked to me. I talked to Bentham. Bentham was here. Bentham came to see me. And stuff like that. And he told me we had to go back. And it's just like, who is this Bentham guy? Well, the final scene has Jack breaking into a funeral home because Bentham died. And Ben is waiting for him. He opens the thing. You don't see it at first. The last shot is the camera panning over to show you who it is. And it's Locke. And you watch it for the first time, you're like, wait. No, he was alive the last time we saw him. He's supposed to be leading the others. Now, how does he die? Is that a cop-out? What is that? What? We find out in season 5 how this happens. And that's going to lead into my big schmaz that I'm going to do about the reveal of the not Jacob guy. Okay? Because it was all his plan from the beginning. But, yes. So that's how the season ends. With a shot of Locke's dead body. Jeremy Bentham. But yes. So you have people still on the island, and it's moved somewhere and then you have people off the island. And yes. So they're called the Oceanic Six because there's technically 6 of them. There's Jack, Saeed, Kate, Sun, Hurley, and Aaron is number 6. Now, I'm going to get technical when we talk about season 5 because, okay, so here Ben says that because we find out Jack has been trying to get back. He's been going on flights, hoping they crash. Ben says the island won't let them come back unless they all come back. Remember this. Remember this specifically, that Ben said it won't let you come back unless you all come back. And we'll get to that. But for now, season 4 was way better than season 3. Season 3 was a bunch of filler because they didn't know where the show was going to go. This was a little bit better. Now, I know some fans split on the whole time stuff in season 5. What happens in season 5. Alright? I mean, it's not really a spoiler because they mentioned time travel in the video from the guy who keeps changing his name. But I know people get split on that. But I kind of liked it. It's when you get to season 6 that what they do is just kind of And we'll get to that. For now, season 4 was actually pretty good. It went by fast, which is cool. But yeah. So what are your thoughts on season 4 of Lost? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I've been Scotty. We'll see you in the next one.